This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
Be advised that the views and opinions of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
We have scheduled a special interview and taping for a very special guest who arrived in the Philippines a week ago and will be leaving in a day or two, so we had to schedule a special time for this interview. And this is because our guest has been traveling all around the world. He is a very well studied individual. And he has written over 100 books. But what is important is the vision he has about the world and the many other things that we hope to learn from Dr. Peter Baofu, an American. Just to qualify, I thought he was a Vietnamese American, but turns out to be Chinese American. Because I was going to ask about your background. If you're Vietnamese American, I used to handle the refugees from Vietnam in the Philippines, but okay. Well, here is Dr. Peter Baofu. His curriculum vitae goes 80 pages, so I will not read through them, but just highlight the ideas that I have seen and watched in his previous interviews all over the world about the visions for the future that he has and he has written about. But let's go back to your background, Dr. Baofu. What would you like the audience first to know about you before you go on to your visions of the future?
I have a very unusual background. I spent some of my time in East Asia and Southeast Asia. I also spent some of my life too in Europe. I spent about 8 years over there in Europe. I was also educated in Europe. I was in France, for example. And then I spent the rest of my life in the US. Almost all of my educations and all of my degrees are from the US. I have 5 of them. So I also went to MIT. I got my PhD from MIT.
In engineering, a technical subject, or humanities?
I was in political science, but my work at that time was very unusual because I was allowed to study everything for my dissertation, which it was very unusual because I talk about the future of human civilization in all domains of knowledge, not just in one thing, let's say in political science or economics. In my dissertation, I spoke about all of them, and that's why right now I have more than 106 theories. And the 130 books that I have written are on all topics and all fields of knowledge in the social sciences, the natural sciences, the humanities, and the formal sciences. Ultimately, for the unified theories of everything, and I have proposed 3 of them so far.
Well, the unified theory of everything that we read about is mainly about physics.
Yes. It's not about physics.
Yeah.
The unified theory in physics is a specific theory in this time is in physics. Mine is meta theory, theory before theory. And I propose 3 of them. One is about ontology, the other one is about epistemology, and the third is about hermeneutics. And that should serve as a foundation of everything else, no matter what topics, either in the social sciences, the natural sciences, the humanities, or the formal sciences.
What was the first one? Epistemology and hermeneutics. And the first one is?
Ontology.
Ontology. What's this?
Ontology is the study of being.
Okay.
For example, and all these 3, they are supposed to constitute some fundamental foundations of meta-theory. Theory before theory.
Well, epistemology is theory of knowledge. Hermeneutics is
the question of being, for example. Let's say, what is the nature of reality in the world, for example. And this is now we go into deeper and deeper and deeper. Ultimately, all theories that we talk about in everyday life, the talk about physics, or politics, or economics, they are theories. But they're theories, they are not innocent. They presume certain fundamental assumptions. And now, if we go into and questioning them, now we go into meta-theory, theory before theory. But there's only 3 of them. I have proposed more than 106 theories. Only 3 of them about meta-theory. The rest of them are all about specific theories, including some theories on physics, by the way. But I focus on all of them. That's why they're so fundamental, and my project is so massive, something which is intellectually very challenging, and that's why it's so unprecedented in human history.
Well, it's good we get to know you, because we know Fukuyama, we know so many other names. We're now getting to know Dr. Baofu. But now these theories are circulated among certain circles in the academe. But this has to be brought to the masses, so to speak. How do we recognize this? Will we ever see it really in everyday life, or this is just going to be...
In fact, some of my theories are already happening. Let me give you some examples, because you mentioned some of the previous authors. Let me give you 2 examples. In the US and also in the West nowadays, there are 2 very, very popular ideologies and theories. And they are capitalism and democracy. Especially, I'm talking about market capitalism and liberal democracy. In the US, they are almost like gods.
That's right.
I mean, if you question them, you could be in trouble, because that's politically incorrect. Especially since the end of the Cold War, there have been many people who believe that liberal democracy and market capitalism, they are the highest achievements of human history, and they stand for the future.
And so, in fact, Fukuyama says that we are at the end of history, there's nothing more to discover.
He's one of them. He's not the only one, but he's certainly a famous one. I question that. I think far from the end, far from the end of it. We're only at the beginning. In fact, there are much more very, very interesting ideas and theories in the future that we had not known before. And we are entering that. In fact, there are so many other ideas and theories right now. I propose 106 of them so far about the future. And 2 of them over here is about what I call post-capitalism and post-democracy. Now, what I'm predicting is that not only that liberal democracy will not last, and not only that, but also democracy as a political system will not last either. It is a Cold War ideology in this sense. It triumphs at the end of the Cold War when the US, for example, when the Soviet Union collapsed. So people at that time thought, with a sense of euphoria, that democracy, especially liberal democracy, American style, and market capitalism, especially Western and American style, they are the end, so to speak. There cannot be any more higher achievements than that, and I question that.
You cannot be nearer the contrapuntal system, which is China today, which has said that, which has made Fukuyama eat his words, because socialist market system that exists in China today, and authoritarian people's democracy.
In fact, there's another theory, and not just this 2. Another theory of mine is talk about the post-Cold War era, in which I talk about the rise of new empires. I'm talking about the case of China in this case as one of the 2 hyper-empires in the future. The second one is India. I talk about the Indian Union and the Chinese Union. Now, this is the 3rd theory, which is separated from the first 2 theories. But to answer your question quickly, now that is very important, because what is happening in China in the last 30 years is really, in a sense, intentionally or unintentionally, is to question also the very foundation of the kind of ideology that somehow liberal democracy and market capitalism are the triumphant end of history. Oh, far from it. What China has been doing is to show there's another alternative, another way to do development, another way to look into politics, whether those people who advocate that ideology, like it or not, but that's exactly what is happening. So what is happening in China is very profound, and India is the next.
Yeah, well, India is something we're waiting and watching for because so far they have many aspects of their society still stuck in the ancient ideologies. So that would be interesting, but I think it will be 1 or 2 generations before something shines from India. One of the problems of India is Hindu nationalism, which may suppress other potentials of India. But that would be interesting. And my impression today, of course, given AI, artificial intelligence, autonomous vehicles, fusion energy probably coming in the next 5-10 years. Evolution will not end. Even after China reaches its apex in this century, something else will come. I don't know if it's India or it's going to be a synthesis of all these.
2 points very quickly. In the case of India, I do agree with you that they have some problems. I spoke about this in another book, and the title of that book is Beyond the World of Titans and the Remaking of World Order, in which I talk about the Chinese and the Indian one as the future hyper empires, but there will be a gap between the two. In the case of India, there are a lot of different problems, and they will overcome some of it. But on the other hand, there will be, the two of them will be competing, but they will not be equal. There will be some asymmetric relationship, just as during the Cold War, you have the Soviet Union and the US, but they were not equal in the end. The US were far ahead of the Soviet Union in many other areas. The same thing will be facing between two of them. And secondly, you talk about the artificial intelligence and computing technology and all that. I have also written some books on that topic too. And I have also proposed some new theories. And one of them is the idea what I call post-humanity. In fact, many of my books, 130 so far, have the title post-human, like the future post-human something. Now, the theory of post-humanity is the one that I proposed when I was at MIT. The reason that I was at MIT at that time was I was very impressed by some of the technologies and inventions, innovations at MIT at the time. And I come to realize when I look and I research on that topic that the human race, as we understand it right now, you and me, for example, we will not last. And that's my proposal in my dissertation. I propose that even further. The theory of post-humanity in the sense is to show, for example, that the future intelligent life forms will be different, and that artificial intelligence will play a role, but that's not the only one, but there are many more to come.
Religion. What is in store for religion in the future to come?
Yes, I have also written a book on religion too, and that's called The Future of Post-Human Religion. Now, the religions that we have known so far, either in Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Taoism, and all that, all of them, they are for humans. And in many ways, they are not adequate to understand faith, death, and after death. And those are some of the issues which are very fascinating, and they have also impressed a lot of humans since then. But I think that in the future, when you have the post-humans, different life forms, we will talk more about that too, and they will have different forms of religion, such that the religion that we have now, that you talk about Jesus Christ or Allah or Buddha and all of that, they will become not quite relevant to future religions. And I propose some of them in that book.
I think we still have a few seconds. So, what is the practical purpose for the ordinary human being today in trying to understand and go through your theories and your books?
There are a lot of practical implications. Many of the things that I have said in my publications, they are happening now. It's not just in the future, but they will be happening more and more and more in the future. History does not happen. Evolution does not happen in one day.
That's right.
It happened for over a long time. But the job of a great visionary is able to understand what is happening now and what is the future in later time and how they connect together. That is the profoundness of my predictions.
So now we'll look at these visions in relation to capitalism and democracy after this break.